Wake up! Oh God, what is happening to me?
In the previous video, we uncovered the early layers of Song of Horror, a slow-burning nightmare centered around a cursed music box and the people drawn into its orbit. But as the story continues, it becomes clear that the horror runs deeper than anyone expected. What began as a missing person case quickly spiraled into something far more disturbing, a pattern of madness, loss, and supernatural influence that stretches across decades and several key players, which led to the death of several main characters and got us close to finding out where our missing writer was. In this second part, we're picking up right where we left off with a POV chapter from Sebastian Huscher, and as the video develops, we'll be examining what is the Presence, including its origins and capabilities, and the final fates of all our characters. The investigation expands, the stakes rise, and the grip of the Presence only tightens. Expect spoilers, as this is where Song of Horror stops hinting and starts revealing. For a very quick recap if you don't want to watch part 1, Daniel Neuer, a washed up publicist battling demons of his past, literal and metaphorical, gets pulled into a waking nightmare. Tasked with locating the reclusive author Sebastian P. Huscher, Daniel stumbles upon something far more sinister than a missing manuscript, a cursed music box, and a malevolent force known only as the Presence. Episode 1 sets the stage, Huscher's entire family gone, Daniel pulled into an unknowable dimension, and those who try to help him, well, some never make it out alive. Sophie, his ex-wife, sacrificed everything to drag Daniel back from the brink, only to vanish into the darkness herself. Huscher himself gone from the house, the only lead is his friend Isaac Faber, whom he'd sent the music box. By episode 2, the trail leads to an antique shop and the haunted halls of a decaying apartment complex. The deeper Daniel digs, the more he unearths the truth. This curse doesn't just kill, it infects, it warps people. Reality bends, time distorts slightly, and people vanish. Isaac Faber, the man who passed the music box to Huscher, is found broken, another soul consumed by the Presence. In episode 3, our desperate search takes us to the university where Huscher worked. Through cursed libraries and ancient archives, Daniel uncovers the music box's true origin, Argos Legrand, a 19th century magnate whose legacy is drenched in mystery and death. Argos had made the music box for his youngest daughter, Ariadne, after witnessing a paranormal concert at an abbey of the Saint of Music. And yet, Ariadne Legrand, the box's original recipient, is still alive and old. At every step, Daniel is haunted not just by spirits but by choices. People die in his place, friends become phantoms, and the Presence, well, it's still watching and still waiting. So where does this all lead? A cursed abbey, a forgotten asylum, and the final acts of Huscher's descent, and maybe the key to ending this nightmare once and for all. Strangely, our next chapter doesn't start from Neuer's point of view. We're Sebastian Huscher, stood at the gates of the Abbey of St. Cecilia, the place where Argos Legrand got his inspiration for the music box. Huscher is writing to Faber, but reveals that when he sent the box back to him, that he knew it wouldn't fix anything. He was just trying to buy time and make him feel better. He'd left his wife without telling her to go on this journey, and he seems unaware that everyone's died at this point. He, just like us, knows that Argos Legrand was the person who'd had the box made and the melody put in. He's also a man who died due to suspicious circumstances, a violent burglary at his house. But when the police came, the bodies were incinerated rather than buried, and Huscher thinks it's a full cover-up. Legrand had gone to the Abbey of St. Cecilia, and Huscher has now too, following him. There was an annual concert in 1912 which Legrand didn't attend but came to investigate after. Everyone who had attended the concert died or disappeared, and it looks like there might be some information on the Presence here. Huscher can feel the noose closing in, and well, he puts it best.
I see darkness all around me, and shadows lurking in the corners. I see my world merging with something else. I see another place. The black figure. I feel it's here with me.
The loading screen asks ominously, is this the end? And when we start the interlude, we're in the middle of the abbey, our only instruction being, we have to find it. It being something we're not entirely sure about. I'm 90% sure nothing can actually get us in this interlude chapter, but I didn't want to leave anything to chance. There's a few puzzles in this section that require a lot of moving around. In one of the bathrooms, we can see an intricate system of pipes, and our goal here is to get the water flowing to an old machine. The music in this area is haunting and probably my favourite in all the areas, the echoes of a choir that took place many years ago ringing in the background. We pull out a wet rag from an old latrine to help restore the flow of water elsewhere, and we have no access to a map and a lot of the doors are locked in this area, making it strangely easier to move around. There's only a limited path here. The thing that's most disturbing is when we enter one of the buildings and realise the architecture here is very close to that of the other world Daniel was pulled into prior. This place has some sort of significance to the present. Heading deeper, we find an old alchemical lab of sorts, and with it, a hydraulic system that isn't working just yet for a secret door behind a bookshelf. It's very cloak and dagger. The pipes running to it are yellow, and so we need to find all these yellow pipes and traipse about the place, making sure they're full of water. Through enough trial and error, meandering around, you'll find all of the relevant valves, and it's very clear we're traipsing around the ruins of a site most foul, especially when we hear ghostly whispers and doors slamming. Eventually we can get that secret door open, and the room we find behind it isn't very priestly at all. A corpse's feet hanging just in our view, and a letter from Father Malaquais, the prior of the abbey, on a Bible in the room.
Some days ago now, I observed the brothers performing a strange ritual. They took turns to sit in front of a mirror and facing it, light the lamp, then put it out. This shall remain as written testimony of everything that has been discovered and that has been passed on to me, as it may prove valuable to whomever so finds it. Sitting in front of the mirror, they observe their own reflection and everything behind them. They then proceed to put the lamp out or dim its flame to the point that the eyes, blinded by the previous glow, no longer see. Thereupon, they light it once more and observe their reflections and everything behind them, repeating the process several times. And sometimes, God help us, the reflection shown in the mirror isn't what it should be. I can't describe the horrors that appear. The mere act of committing them to paper is an insult to our Lord. But what I can say is that the more frequently these horrors appear, the closer they are, and the less time we will have until they are no longer only in the reflection.
It doesn't sound very Catholic at all, and as almost to insult me for my previous remark of nothing can hurt us in this place, the abbot, or what's left of him after the presence has warped his body, comes tumbling in from the room behind us. Left with nowhere to go but forwards, we head into a room that Daniel has seen before but in the other world. In fact, this corridor has been seen before too. Something's not right about this place at all. Husher finds a lamp and a mirror and begins the ritual mentioned in the letter to see how much time he has left. Lights on, lights off, until eventually the lights go out entirely and we're left with a to be continued, the fate of Husher unknown. A suitably spooky interlude chapter and a confirmation at least where Husher is presently. We head into chapter 4, the last concert, to find him firsthand. Daniel has arrived at the abbey and found Ernest, an ex-archaeologist whom Husher had facilitated his visit to the abbey. When they had arrived, Husher had asked Ernest to leave and the two hadn't spoken since. We've brought a whole gang with us this time, each trying to find their own way into the abbey. The characters we can choose from here are Daniel himself, the returning Erica Farber, the returning Grace Richard, or Ernest Finnegan. Ernest has a hearing aid as his personal item, which I've no clue what it does, but with his connection to Husher, it seemed only right to choose him. Depending on which character you choose, you'll be spat out in a different starting location, making the abbey quite hard to compare playthroughs with. We're in the old cloister as Ernest, and you can imagine the safety wheels are off entirely. This is one of the best chapters, and also one of the longest ones, having us collect a variety of items, traipse through several large areas, and having a total of 4 keys for movement and 4 keys for a final puzzle to collect. As is the gist with the chapters so far, We need to bash our heads against all available doors to find a path forward. So far, the first 2 I checked needed separate keys, and there was this tunnel I could crawl through, but it was blocked off by a hatch. There's also a well we can go down, but with the darkness at the bottom, I wouldn't recommend it. The only path is into the monastery's refectory. Inside there's a note from Husher.
I feel like I'm being followed. I know the abbey is abandoned, but sometimes it feels like something's there. Who's putting out the candles? It might just be the wind or the insufferable chill. I must be losing my mind, but sometimes I encounter candles that I don't recall lighting myself. Damn it. I need to find the origin of that cursed song and get out of this place.
You and me both, Sebastian. The music has evolved since the interlude, becoming a full choir of voices oppressively weighing us down. The presence is here full-fold now. In the refectory, we can pick up a bottle of liquor and see the remnants of the kitchen that would feed the monks. Old utensils that fed many mouths. There's also a hand crank that'll open up the tunnel from earlier. The gears are all deteriorated, so we'll need to grease them back up before we can head forward. Returning from the pot of grease to the switch, we encounter the silence in this chapter. The abbot of the monastery, his mouth contorted cruelly into this wide gaping grin, jaw just distended like a snake. This is likely due to the abbot's involvement in the concert. It's one thing to play the song on a music box, but the strain it must put on one's body when they are the instrument, it's very clear. The developers back this up with some of their comments online too. Crawling through the tunnel from earlier, we enter a room full of ovens and furnaces, a key lying on a corpse, and page 2 of the abbot's diary. We're missing the first page at this point.
He has been purified. I have nothing to fear. His bones will return to dust in that oven, for I will not allow him to be taken elsewhere. This should suffice to silence the voices. All is well. I have nothing to fear. All I must do is finish his altar and keep him calm. I must not be afraid. My faith must not falter.
Very not Catholic indeed. The corpse from earlier seems to be the work of the abbot, and this altar he's constructing is clearly not for our Christian God. Dark things happened in this place, dark things indeed. Through a back door, we can enter the central area of the abbey, where Husher was moving around in the interlude, the new cloister. Armed with our pewter key, we can enter the dormitories of the monks, a hole in the wall surrounded by black mould opening up as we move deeper into the room. I was half expecting something to come running out at me. There's an account from a local here determining this place is haunted and he should have steered clear, but there's no body to go with the account. Strangely enough, an apparition of a monk appears, seemingly engaged with this mirror ritual, the mirror itself visibly broken. Our goal here is to find our way to Mr. Husher, and we've obviously got a bit of an advantage knowing where he ended up. We can't charge straight up there, as many of the doors have become locked since, but we can follow in his footsteps, collecting the rag he pulled from the toilet earlier. There's some shears and a pair of bellows and a lot of puzzles in this section. We've not actually encountered any of them yet, just a load of items for different ones. Hell, we've only really encountered the silence once. If anything, the suspense is the biggest fear factor here, the presence being quite subdued. Heading into a hole in the dormitory, we can find the flight of stairs and more water boiler themed bits of apparatus. We distill the liquor we found earlier, that alcohol will probably be useful somewhere, and head up said stairs. The walls up top are covered in crucifixes and what I imagine are pages from the Bible, prayers to ward off this evil presence. The door up top is blocked by 4 keys, held by the mainstays of the chapel, the prior, the abbot, Victorino, the treasurer, I believe, and Anino, the librarian. They'd locked up the other monks here, and getting this door open will lead us to the end of the chapter, but we need to find these keys and they're scattered everywhere. To aid in this, we use the cloth from earlier to flood a reservoir at the bottom of the stairs and get another movement key. Leaving into the courtyard, we have a new goal, but before we can get to it, the presence that was quite subdued to this point bears new fangs as we hear the chime of church bells and we grab a mirror and a lantern on one of the statues. Here we encounter the Requiem. We need to use the mirror to locate these spectres, and they look a lot more like Nazgul than anything else. We use the lantern to blast them away. They've got a fun habit of trying to sneak up on you, and if you let them out of your sight, that's exactly what they're going to try and do. But they are arguably the easiest form of the presence to dispatch. I was always happy when they appeared under the assumption they'd reduce the chance something else would attack me. I'm going to break a cardinal sin here and make a long story much shorter though. The Abbey is one of my favourite chapters, and as such I want to keep as much of it intact for you, the viewer, to experience if you ever play this game. I'm going to jump ahead to our actual encounters with the keys. Now, throughout all this, we're going to see notes from the librarian detailing how they locked their brothers away, the ones possessed after the concert, but the abbot seems to still be affected, singing his psalms at night, but those songs warping into the Song of Horror, the one of the presence. The librarian wants to take his key from him, convinced he's corrupted. The abbot's notes seem to conflict this statement, stating he killed one of the priests who wanted to open the door, dragging his corpse and locking the key away. It's not very priestly, but if he was possessed, you think he'd be more than happy to open the doors. It's slightly unclear. All the key bearers seem to get a little bit mad in fact, and this really helps with them being unreliable narrators. The treasurer commits suicide in the hopes he'll end up in hell rather than the other world of the presence. The prior's key can be found upon his own body, requiring us to assemble this sort of tool to open his ribcage and pluck the thing out. One of the keys requires venturing within the well of the old cloister, and we have to get a load of items to light the way down first, and when we lower ourselves into the damp pit, it sounds very spooky.
These aren't the first catacombs I've explored.
The catacombs are home to a writhing mass of black tentacles that require us using various levers to cordon it off so we can advance into the abbey proper. We can actually interact with Daniel, who's still trying to open the front doors though when we get there.
Mr. Noya, don't waste your time. You won't be able to open that door.
There's also a confessional where we can deposit the confessions of priests we might have picked up along the way, giving us tarot cards reflecting the various permutations of the presence. When the deck is assembled, flipping one of these cards over will permanently disable that form of the presence. It's especially good if one of the minigames gives you more trouble than the rest. Though one of the confessions is kind of RNG where you might pick it up, so I never assembled this in my playthrough. Moving on, we drop the thurible in the cathedral proper and it gets us the treasurer's key, leaving just 2 left. Now the abbot's key is somewhere in his domicile, across through the graveyard, full of statues here that all look like Grim Reapers. It's exceptionally eerie. They point at various tombs or directions we need to head. The librarian's key is actually in one of these caskets being pointed at, requiring a little bit more desecration to reach. The abbot's house is possibly the spookiest area in the whole chapter. A painting of the man, the only normal looking thing here, as the corpses of various victims of the presence are nailed about the place, hanging from walls and chopped into various pieces.
For Christ's sake, this is insane.
A note from the abbot detailing how they plan to appease the presence in their time period. It was by constructing a dark effigy in its honour, trying to appease it with worship. These are religious men and they sought a religious solution. As we can see by the ruins of the abbey, this really didn't work well at all. The effigy, well, it's made of meat, isn't it? The abbot's confession is hanging from the effigy, and you can actually view the abbot in his true form by going back and looking at the painting after seeing this. The man's distended jaw grinning back at us. Suitably creeped out and with 3 of the keys and 1 hidden within a wax statuette, I head back to the refractory ovens to melt the last one, just as one of the doors tries to force itself open on me. Now, despite my best attempts at slamming this thing shut, it manages to persevere and pull Ernest to his doom, causing his story to come to an end. We send Grace in to finish the job, only she comes in by the dormitories on the opposite side of the chapel. We collect the figurine from Ernest's possessions and melt it in one of the ovens. We get jump scared by the abbot trying to head back to the doors as we pray through the silence minigame. We can then open the spooky door locked by 4 keys, and it's an exact replica of the door Daniel was pulled through in chapter 1. Perhaps the effigy the abbot constructed bound some of the presence to this place, a holy site for a dark god. It's actually quite unclear why this area holds so much permanence in its schemes, but I suppose the massacre could be as good an excuse as any. We see Husher by the broken mirror here, and it's very clear he's passed over. In the same room Daniel was trapped ages ago. The door now opening to an interview room with the same girl we saw as a ghost in the university, and the mangled remains of a woman across from her. There's a diary of Argos Legrand here though. Leaving the room again, the hallway is now infinitely large. One of the doors we can open is full of the bones of monks locked in there, and a mirror shows Daniel taking himself out. We run through more rooms until eventually Daniel believes he's out of there. It was quite a lucky break. We cut to the outro with Erica being upset by the deaths of her father and Husher, and the fact the group then spent hours looking for Ernest and couldn't find any sign of him. It's clear he's gone too. Father and Husher have now taken themselves out, with hallucinations hinting that Daniel might also go this route. With our leads dried up, Daniel decides to read Legrand's diary, and it's an incoherent, erratic rambling, but towards the end he sees something readable. In Legrand's time, he tried to get rid of the box by burying it under his house, and after smashing a wall down to get to it, he sees his wife and daughter trapped in there with it. Though he just saw his wife and daughter upstairs, so he determines that the ones upstairs must be monstrous forms that are walking about to try and get Ariadne. He takes the mallet and takes his own family out, clearly gripped by hallucinations and psychosis, realising only too late that the things he saw in the basement were the hallucinations. He was the only monster in the house, and he takes himself out due to the weight of his actions. Ariadne is the only survivor from the Legrand family. There's a letter in the back of the journal detailing what happened to her after. A Dr. Berenice Prestegard had looked after her at a mental hospital following all this debacle. Daniel determines he needs to investigate, and he has a list of characters we can call. Unfortunately, 2 of them are dead and completely unreachable. I'd killed them earlier in the playthrough. My boy Etienne and Daniel's ex-wife, so it leads us to call Lydia his AA sponsor. She's also a clinical psychologist, and she goes to investigate the hospital. We're warned that even if we had the other characters, if one person here dies, the chapter will have to restart. Daniel's not going to go in after them. So in chapter 5, Lydia is going to look into this Dr. Berenice Prestegard, who'd also read Legrand's journal and hopefully applied something scientific into making sense of this madness. But that was back in 1920, and the box still haunts us, so we can only hope that there was something that was missed. To add to our list of spooky places, a pre-World War abandoned mental institution, Jeremy Hartwood Hospital, is now on our list. In an attempt to get the power going inside, Lydia pulls on a generator outside and the handle snaps off, causing us to have fun going into a dark, haunted asylum. Goody gumdrops. Entering the place, you get this lovely panoramic that fills me full of confidence. If the grainy music wasn't enough, or the eternal darkness, I'm bricking it already. At least Lydia has some kind words to soften the blow. At least saying, if Daniel can overcome his alcohol problems, he's going to overcome this. We venture in, spotting a stapler in reach and cutting our own arm as we go to grab it. Already a great start. At least this place isn't as open as the cathedral. In fact, the map is arguably much nicer in terms of layout, with there being limited places we can access first and everything being siloed. Heading into the dining hall of the establishment is giving old school cruise ship vibes more than anything. The place at one point served some quite high class, if not insane, customers. The problem is, it's become a pit of darkness and dust in the decade since then, no doubt due to the presence. A report from engineers who were working to dismantle the hospital following its closure reveals the place is most likely haunted.
The dismantling's terminated. Work isn't done, but we're not going to stay here a single minute longer than we have to. 2 of the teams have refused to return to the east wing, and Ezek and his boys tied a thick cable around one of the fridge doors to keep it sealed. They don't want to open it, even though scores of tools and kitchen utensils are back there, along with a couple of high quality chest freezers in perfect condition. It's not the first problem we've had, but the situation's gone too far, and so we must leave. I don't blame them. This place makes my hair stand on end, and I've been inside for less time than any of them. There's still so many things of value in here. Typewriters, radios, luxury furniture. It doesn't matter. As soon as Emil's team returns, we're leaving. I hope they don't tarry or nightfall's gonna catch us here. I wonder what the hell is taking so long. I hope I don't have to go in and look for them.
Lydia begins to freeze as we examine the place further, and it's clear we're not safe. But there's valuable information here, including the shredded photograph of some doctors and patients here. You'll need to slap the photo together and remember some details from it for a code puzzle later, and quite a tricky one, even the dev said that. The real lack of safety comes when we check the kitchen, the place resembling Silent Hill at this point, all rusted metal and decaying walls. The fridges, the note said, were one of the doors which was held shut with a wire, and when we go in there's meat hooks hanging ominously above. In one fridge is a drawing from Ariadne depicting her father's wardrobe, but the other fridge, as soon as we take the cable off, it springs to life. The presence launching itself from it, now haunting the hallway connecting them, hopefully not the rest of the asylum. We'll need to go back in there later, but with that cable we can at least get the power working. The doors play peekaboo as we go to head back to the generator. Combine the broken handle and the cord and we can turn the lights on for what little help they give us. With power flowing, we can interact with a fuse box generator thing of sorts that will power either the morgue, the lifts or the security rooms, depending on which button we press, and we can only have one on it each time. We'll be going to each area, so we'll have to pass back through here in turn. The picture we found earlier gets us the code for the security room, though in all honesty I used a guide to figure out the puzzle. In said security room, we find the notes of Dr. Berenice Prestegard as she talks about her first session with the then young Ariadne. Turns out when she came here she brought her father's diary and the music box itself, and Berenice gives us a nice recap of the events so far.
After years of researching paranormal phenomena, Argus Legrand's investigation led him to the Abbey of St. Cecilia, where a cursed concert had supposedly taken place. After spending a considerable amount of money, he got his hands on the only remaining sheet music from the concert and convinced an acclaimed musician to play the music one more time. The new cursed concert would take place on a steamer that would sail down the Rhine a few weeks later, and both Legrand and his assistants would be there to contemplate the true effects of the song. After the concert, the tycoon wrote the following in his diary. "Those ignorant, illiterate fools. I can only laugh at their curse and their stupidity. The only misfortune that damn song has brought is a hole in my bank account. Alas, at least I take the melody with me. I will have it recorded and play it each day for my family. Ha."
With yet another example of where the music caused catastrophe, we see Legrand had it played aboard a cruise liner before this thing was sunk offshore. Now our goal, as it were, is to find all of Prestegard's recorded notes on Ariadne. There's 3 tapes, each need to be played in different places, and all we can do now is press further into the asylum. As we pass into the actual wards, the halls are quiet. Each of these doors has a room belonging to a different patient, the first being a musician. A mural on their wall stating, "It doesn't like the light, but it likes the song." Chilling stuff to preempt us for our encounter with the ward psychologist outside. It seems Berenice Prestegard didn't escape the presence either, as she's this level's permutation of the silence. We keep quiet, and eventually she finds something else to go and do. The room adjacent to the musician is that of an artist, and it seems both of these people have been given a variety of tools to hone their craft. The artist's room is full of these grungy paintings of bodies. We can remove a poster in there and it will let us shine light into the musician's room. The third room down the hall belongs to a taxidermist, and you can imagine what's covering their walls. With light now shining into the musician's room, we can head back down and view that wall again. Can you notice something special? Yeah, keys are being lit up on the wall, spelling out a song we must play. And do you recognise the tune? On doing such, a piano key pops off with an actual key tied beneath it. That key unlocks a door in the projector room where we can finally get a glimpse of the past and what had occurred here all those years ago. 1920, the interview of Ariadne. We're controlling the Doctor through a really scuffed film grainy scene. We're trying to talk to Ariadne and get nothing from her, so we give her some drawing supplies. She likes to draw. She tells us to turn off the light. It doesn't like the light, so we dim the room and she gets to work. Then things get a bit weird.
Who is that old lady? It's me.
It's who now? In a very silly move, the Doctor puts on a music box, and Ariadne tells us we don't hear the box how she does. The Doctor apparently needs to go to Ariadne's home and sleep in her bed to get the full effects of the box, just like her family did. The presence must be stronger there. We'll pocket that one for later, and then she draws a gentleman.
Oh, who's this gentleman? Is it your daddy? No, it's Mr. Neuer. Wait. What did she say? Mr. Neuer? Daniel? How is that even possible? That recording is almost 80 years old.
So there's some time hijinks going on here. Ariadne, at 8 years old, somehow knows of Daniel Neuer, who probably wasn't born at this point, and what she looks like as an old woman. I suppose it makes sense when the entity she's pretty sound with exists outside of space and time. They dangle that little nugget for us and then the screens turn off. We know the Doctor probably knows more though, and so we see a report of her first experiment.
The volunteers are divided into two groups, the experimental group and the control group. The 12 test subjects will be placed in individual padded cells. The 6 subjects from the control group, North, will live there for the duration of the experiment but will not experience any other change in their usual routine. The 6 subjects in the experimental group, South, including Ariadne, will be played 2 cycles of the song from the music box daily, approx 4 minutes. This procedure will continue for 21 consecutive days.
She's applying scientific method to verify that the music box won't actually affect her patients, but of course we know this isn't going to go to plan and will spell catastrophe. The padded cells are in the next set of halls, and without a tool to listen through the doors, it's not worth trying to get into them, you'll just die. The second experiment report is in the morgue flanking the cells.
2 of the patients in the experimental group have disappeared. I was doing rounds in the East Wing when I began to hear screams coming from the cells. I went in that direction to try and calm the patients down, but they were non-responsive. I'm not even sure if they could hear me, their screaming was so loud. I ran to the security room and returned with the manager. As soon as he opened the cell, we saw that it was empty. We could hear shrieking sounds all around us, so it was impossible to know for sure, but I swear the loudest screams were coming from the very room we were about to enter. Besides, as soon as we opened the door, all of the screaming ceased at once. We've checked the rest of the cells and one of them is empty, but no one moved any of the patients. What the hell is going on? I must get to the bottom of this.
Well, I hate to say I told you so, Doctor, but it seems the presence had had its way with a few of her patients, and likely the whole place by the end of it, looking at the state it's been in. Skipping slightly ahead, we find a recording of Berenice's notes and where she'd fallen asleep in Ariadne's home. She'd set up a phonogram, following the child's advice in the video recording. Things get very interesting here as we're playing as Berenice for these mini segments of the chapter. She awakens in Ariadne's room, the door seemingly boarded shut now from the inside, the only available door taking us to a macabre gallery of sorts, where we can see the final fate of Legrand, and a painting of ourselves looking at the box. It reminds me almost of the Tome Room in Eternal Darkness. Outside of time and space, there's an occult tablet and photos of previous protagonists, or, well, not protagonists in this case, but people who died. The tablet is on a plinth and can be read, despite the Doctor having no knowledge of the language it's inscribed in.
It's here. I felt it again. It happens sometimes, though always at night. When I turn out the lights, almost unperceivable, just barely past where my eyes can see, or when I close my eyes, watching me, with eyes that are not such lurking in the frontier between wakefulness and sleep. My dreams are unusual and my rest troubled. When I wake up, I remember seeing something in the distance, through a window that I can barely make out, or in a fleeting reflection on the bright surface of a river, as I walk arm in arm with my fiancé, lost in the muds of the Great War. Other times I dream a crowd is watching me, and that thing is there, among their grey faces devoid of expression. As soon as I notice its existence, I stop being capable of finding it. Do I really want to? Do I mean to find it? What does it all mean?
It's unclear who the author is exactly, but as we turn away from the tablet, a bust appears behind us, a sack hiding its face until we pull that off and...
Wake up.
Very spooky indeed. A door ahead unlocks and we advance down some Icarus stairs, half ruins like the mansion itself and half new architecture. Prestigard sees Husher and Faber in the next room, despite them not having died at this point in time. Wherever this dream is, it exists out of our understanding of time and space, and another tablet details more.
I dare not name it, but I know it's here. There is a presence that follows me everywhere and nowhere at once, in the walls and ceilings, but also buried in my mind, digging through my thoughts and painting them in the colour of fear. Everything becomes a little darker each day. God, what is happening to me? When there is silence, I hear the melody, soft, slow, beautiful, dark, sinister, terrifying and cruel. If I pay close attention, those impossible notes and unnatural chords echoing from the deepest of caverns reach me without passing through my ears. In my dreams, I descend towards an indescribable place I beg never to get to see. When I wake up, all I remember is the dread. That thing is at the end of the road. It is there. I know it is there. If that's even a place. They are the same. It is there. No, it is not. It equals there. It can't be. It can't be of this world.
Another bust appears, encouraging us to wake up, but no dice as we head further in. We go into an even darker hallway and another museum room, the artwork here reflecting the stuff we saw in the church and looking more morbid as we press further. There's a painting of old Ariadne, the woman who should be a child at this point, and one of Daniel Neuer, who's probably not even a baby at this point. Perhaps his fate is sealed, like the others.
It's behind every door, waiting for me to step through. It's in the cracks in the ceiling, waiting for me to walk in. It's in each shadow, every nook and cranny, waiting for me to turn my back. It's in the mirrors, waiting for me to look. Does it know that I'm aware of it? Please, please tell me it doesn't. No. If it knows that I know, it will come for me. The melody twists and warps, played by grotesque instruments no person could have created. It starts out with an awful screeching sound and slowly transforms until it can be heard amidst all the shrieking and anguish. I want to close my eyes, but I'm already asleep. I can't. I don't want to get there. These are not nightmares, it's more than that. I wish they were nightmares, but those are gone. They died of fear a long time ago. All that remains is the horror and the plateau, only the presence and the foreboding echoes of the song. I want to disappear, stop the suffering and torment, and never hear or see anything again. I want to stop feeling it, enduring it, but I have to finish. I must do it, I must get there.
Wake up!
The bust is screaming for us to wake up this time as the next hallway shatters into a tunnel to the abyss, with a woman reflecting the bust, having a sack on her head, sat ahead of us. We pull it off and, well...
Who's there?
The nightmare ends. In the same room we played the recording, we find a second one, but this retelling seemed to destroy the phonograph in the room. We'll need to find another. Drawings on the wall reflect Ariadne's notion that she's aware of things that shouldn't have passed yet. Memories from when she was a baby, mentions of Neuer, who she's never met. This is a deep rabbit hole, and the only way to get through it is to find Prestigard's other recordings and see what happened. That's easier said than done, like everything in this game. A fun little segment is when we go back towards the freezer, having the bright idea to throw a flare in to dispel the supernatural darkness, and then go rootling through the cupboards while we're on a soft timer. Wait too long, flare goes out, story ends. We find a mesh glove which we can use to get behind the broken glass we discovered right at the start of this chapter. That gets us the stapler and we use it to repair an elevator. Things go up and luckily nothing joins us inside, but we do get to some offices where we'll find more phonograms. We can listen to recording number 2.
On the one hand, I just want to get out of here. But on the other, I need to know what's happening. I need to understand the dreams this place causes in me, and the visions I've had these past few days. It's pitch black outside. and the old mansion is even more menacing than before. I've taken out my last 2 candles, but lighted only 1, in case I wake up before dawn. It would terrify me to be here, alone in the dark. I'm in Ariadne's room again.
The second dream starts out exactly the same as the last, but the doors open up to the hospital ward rather than a few art exhibits. We see Berenice inside one of the cells begging to wake up so she doesn't have to go there. Unfortunately, in a second cell we've got Berenice 2, who wants our dream catcher, obviously a tool to keep nightmares at bay, and it's funny the presence wants this gone for us to advance. Perhaps Daniel should have raided a few of those dollar stores to defend himself. She gives us a key and we advance further in hitting a dead end where one of the doors tries to force itself open. This one is actually scripted and is impossible to close, leading to Berenice being trapped within a cell, an ominous only one way out on the wall, and an ice pick on the table being the only things we can interact with. The ice pick then changes to a razor as the lights go out, and then a noose, hinting what it means by only one way out. When the noose changes to a bottle of arsenic, she glugs it and then takes that one way out of the nightmare, waking up and potentially hinting at her fate, as has been the way with all those before affected by the box. Each dream is taking her closer to there, and I fear she'll arrive soon. Throughout the level, we'll encounter drawings of Ariadne's from when she was a child. So far, one of her father's bloodied wardrobe, and one of a scene to take place with her old lady form. We'll keep picking these up as we go. They foreshadow things that are going to happen. Now there's a pipe puzzle to get the third recording delivered to the director's office, and in one of the adjacent rooms, a letter containing a picture of a cave painting from 40,000 years ago, showing the presence in Spain. It stretches back much further than the Egyptians, and has probably been stalking the world with its curse song long before human ears could listen. Recording 3 is retrieved alongside the third experiment report.
5 patients from the experimental group have disappeared, all except for the original test subject, Ariadne Legrand Armsberg. I don't know if they've escaped or if the walls have swallowed them, but they've left no trace. Security did not register any relevant incidents either. I looked for the doctor to inform her of this, but she's nowhere to be found. When I asked Ariadne if she'd seen her, she shook her head and asked me if she was finally there. I asked her what she'd meant, but she didn't say anything else. It's been impossible to re-establish communications with her. I have a terrible feeling about this.
The presence has so far defied all attempts at disproving it or warding it away. Sending the box away doesn't help, constructing effigies and worshipping it doesn't help, and hiding within padded cells away from anything that might harm you still doesn't help. All the patients have been taken, and only Ariadne seems immune to the presence. The director wrote this third report, and it seems Berenice had disappeared in this time too. So can anything stop the presence? Another doctor corroborates the notes, describing the events as a contagious mental illness affecting the patients and now staff alike. We enter Ariadne's cell using a stethoscope to hear through the padded door. We find her final drawing. It appears to be a man stood in there, the place, not the descriptor, and we can then listen to the third recording.
This place. That thing. The presence. That's what Argus Legrand called that horror. Now I know why. It's anywhere the song is. In the hospital, in Ariadne, in me. Everywhere. Maybe there's no solution. Maybe it isn't something you can just end. But maybe cut it off from everything, from this world. Burn the bridge. Return the song to whence it came. If I take the box to that place, if I leave it there, with the presence, I need to push forward just a little longer. I need to understand. I need to put an end to this. I need to go there.
Berenice describes the presence. To defeat it, maybe we can take the song back to the presence's realm. That might keep it trapped there. Berenice descends deep into a pit, seeing her silent copy and going face to face with the presence itself.
I'm so sorry.
With Berenice's fate unknown, Lydia calls Daniel and he decides to take things forward. We get the last part of Berenice's recording too.
Ariadne was right. She was right about everything. I've seen it with my own eyes, even if it was in dreams. It's true. That place. The presence. I know what I have to do. Now that I'm awake, I need to get the music box and find a way to take it there. Yes. I solved this riddle. Now that I'm awake, I can put an end to this horror once and for all. Now that I'm awake, I can awake.
This is it, the finale entitled simply There. The intro cutscene describes some things, that Ariadne survived so long because she was a baby when she first heard the song, that her mind developed around it, withstanding the horrors it brought. We might be able to stop the presence by burning the bridge, as Berenice put it, and Daniel rushes to Legrand Manor to end things. Ariadne doesn't answer when we knock, but the place is unlocked so we can go in. We go into the living room and see her there, possibly our only interaction with another character in one of these levels. If you hang around in this room, Ariadne has a few different things to say. Talking about Berenice here, she says,
She wants to help me. I don't need help. But she does.
Looking at a portrait of Elaine, she says,
Elaine, Ariadne's older sister. What a senseless tragedy.
Elaine, my sister. Always young, always dark.
as if she still sees her walking the halls trapped as a little girl. We head upstairs, finding the box by a mirror with a lantern, and we play the game the priest played back in the chapel. It pays off this time as we're transported directly to there, trapped there even. The door here is huge, some big mural and statues surrounding it, looking like the horrors we've seen. To get through that big door, we need to turn off all 4 of those lights, and there are 4 different nightmare puzzles for each of the people dispatched by the presence in the past. We'll need to complete a puzzle to unlock the big door. Legrand's nightmare is him searching for his wife and daughter, carrying the mallet to dispatch the monsters he believed they were. We have to follow the sound of crying and not stay in the darkness too long. And we can see his bout of madness as he raises the mallet and dispatches his family.
No! No!
Now you'll notice 2 lights went off in my playthrough. If you had all of Ariadne's drawings, you only need to do 2 puzzles. I chose Prestegard's second, and it was a deduction game where you have to find 2 patients who'd never heard the box or the music. You can talk to the patients and look in their rooms to get a gauge of who's seen the presence, and some of them lie to you. A lot of them scrawling the presence on their padded walls but saying they never heard of it. We play the box to the 2 unaffected, and then the door opens. Daniel is stood on a big cove, an eclipse stretching out in the sky above, and an endless black abyss flanking it. We put the box down and then things get real as the abyss comes to life. Thousands of bodies with the presence standing above them coming after Daniel, probably previous victims of the presence. But we managed to squeeze out and back into reality. The curse now gone, or so we believe, and we can go and tell Ariadne. We go down and Daniel's had a bit of a long day, so he falls asleep. We wake up in the night.
What time is it? It's getting late. Do you mind if I turn on the light?
No. It doesn't like the light. No. But it likes the song.
Turns out there were 2 boxes, 2 of them this whole time. We then cut to Daniel's perspective. He's in a dark place in the heart of the abyss, but a door opens and we crawl to it. To Sophie, who should be gone by this point. She died back in episode 1. And that's when the penny drops, as we see that first door the presence tried to bust through. Daniel was stuck with the presence outside of time, trapped in there forever. A box still remaining in our world too. Turns out nothing tried can beat the presence, so what a ride. Let's look at the conclusion. Firstly, what is the presence? Like most Lovecraftian entities, the ones it's inspired by, especially of its scale, it exists outside of time and space, in a realm only referred to as there, which seems to be accessible only through dreams. It cares little for our world, for us, just doesn't like the light, and it seems only to appear where the song does too. It just exists there, as Berenice said, wherever the song is found, and most likely, it just attempts to get back to its realm, or its victims try to escape back to ours. And that just brings chaos and ruin wherever it goes. Ariadne was unaffected, as Daniel says, because she encountered it so young. She didn't have a normal brain or development. Her brain developed around the song, making her immune to the hazards the tune would do to a conventional mind. We see this by her survival and her overall attitude and mental state, and she sees things differently than us, probably because she communes with the presence. She sees glimpses of what it sees, or maybe she can peer through into its dimension. Either way, she sees things on a different timeline to us and just has a different level of understanding. That's why she knows about Noya when she's a child, and that's why she talks about her sister still being around. And we do see her occasionally as a ghost in previous levels. It's probably her there. It's where the veils thin between our world, our timeline, and this timeless world of there. Perhaps unlinking them, perhaps removing all existence of the music, the boxes, anyone affected would banish it. But then what if someone just played the song accidentally? There were no music boxes for the cavemen or the Egyptians that found the presence, and it must just be a force of nature. Remember, the priests at the chapel had sung the song, so they were still affected without any external tools. Secondly, the ending. So Daniel was pulled into there with the presence and its victims. He now exists outside of time. We see him there at that first door in episode 1 trying to break through, and I imagine he's at all of the doors trying to escape simultaneously. He's trapped forever in another dimension, could probably never get back out, only coming close to our dimension when the song is played. The silence. So the silence seems to be what happens to those who encounter the presence but never top themselves, some sort of metamorphosis where it corrupts them. That's why we see the janitors, the priest and Prestigard fill that role, but Husher and others don't. They can probably only warp into our world temporarily when the veil is thin, and they seem to be tied to their locations, sort of where they passed over. Their minds and bodies are so warped by this alien dimension, they can never escape. The game as a whole is an absolute joy. It's terrifying, the ambience is unheard of, and for a game that basically consists of walking around and some QTE combat with some puzzle solving, the whole is much greater than the sum of its parts. The writing, the art, the sound design all coming together to make this haunting experience, one I've never really found anywhere else, so please play it for yourselves. There's so many secrets still to unfold, and I'll play some of those after the credits. Over and out, Smooth Brains. I missed so many references in this game, have a look here.